Right, welcome to the Health and Wellbeing show here on Uxbridge FM. And it's a very warm welcome to Geraldine Daly today. Hi, Geraldine.
Hi. Thanks, Steve, for inviting me onto your show.
Now, today, let's have a chat about well-being. First of all, that's a term that's used a lot, isn't it? What is
Yes.
well-being?
Well, it's about having good health, really. It's about, good health in not only the mind, but the body and the spirit as well. Feeling physically fit, mentally fit, and feeling good about ourselves, really.
And you run health and well-being services. You've had a few years training, and you're a member of loads of organisations and whatever. Tell us about the previous career you were in, though.
Well, my previous career, I've had various different careers, but my most recent one has been teaching Spanish from Key Stage 3, even some Key Stage 2, all the way up to Key Stage 5. And I've run a variety of mentoring services at school and things like that. I've many years teaching. And also in another previous existence, I worked for a Spanish airline for 8.5 years and lived in Spain and also taught in schools in Spain. And I've worked for a local charity, a local church as well, as an administrator. So I'd had a very varied kind of background, really.
And at some point you thought, I'm going to go into well-being.
Yes. Well, part of when I was in teaching, I experienced sort of the stress and anxiety, as you get in all jobs, not just teaching. And I needed to find ways to help me alleviate the stress and anxiety that I felt so that I could, do my job really well, but also look after myself. Because it's very important to look after yourself as well. And so I started learning different modalities. I started learning things like massage. I qualified locally with the Middlesex School of Complementary Medicine, and I did things like massage, head massage, and eventually I stumbled across sort of like talking therapies. And as talking is sort of one of my favourite things, then I thought, oh, this seems quite natural for me. So I explored it further.
So let's have a think about what kind of services that you now offer.
Well, now, for example, I specialise, as I've mentioned, in talking therapy. So I do clinical hypnotherapy, modern energy tapping, sometimes that's known as EFT or emotional freedom technique. I teach people breathing techniques. I do some mindfulness. And there are others that I will talk about as well, such as kinetic shift and EMO, energy and motion visualization techniques.
Now, I think I might learn some new words today. And first of all, what is hypnotherapy? I mean, we've seen those stage hypnosis shows, Paul McKenna or whatever. It's not so much that, is it now?
No, I mean, there is a big difference, between stage hypnotherapy and clinical hypnotherapy, really. You can pretty much characterise them, the uses of hypnosis, into two distinct groups. For example, sort of stage hypnotherapy, the one where somebody will get you to cluck like a chicken or something like that, could be classed as entertainment. Whereas clinical hypnotherapy, you're really working with the client to help them achieve their goal. So it's a therapeutic tool where you work one-to-one with the client.
We aren't sort of saying you can cure things with hypnosis. We're saying...
That's right. You're quite right. You can't use the word cure, because what my primary goal is to help people help themselves. So I show people a variety of tools, and they choose the tools which best suit them to help them achieve their personal goals. That's what it's all about, really.
So tell us some of the things that maybe we can overcome with hypnotherapy.
Well, with hypnotherapy, for example, you can overcome fears and phobias. That's quite common. I see a lot of people with anxiety and stress, very, very common. If it's more my specialism, really. Aid natural healing, even. You can actually help people. For example, I've got a friend who's been in active treatment for cancer, and I've been doing some visualizations, just helping with things like wanting to eat, having appetite, things like that, helping with perhaps with nausea. It's not going to cure, because I'm never going to use the word cure, but it will help the person help themselves, because we all have within us the capability of healing ourselves. And the mind is so powerful. It really is. It can help change eating habits. I'm very careful to say about losing weight, because what happens when you lose something, you go looking for it and it comes back and you find it. So it's all about looking at the deep-rooted patterns what's really going on if somebody's trying to lose weight, and it's finding the root cause if that's possible.
So when you're treating someone, we're not swinging a watch in front of their face. They're generally lying down on a couch, or how does it normally work?
Well, where I'm based, actually, in the Windmill Studio in Ruislip, where I have my clinic, we have some nice hypnotherapy chairs where people can sort of just rest back. It's like having a comfy chair. You can put your feet up or you can have your feet down. I always let the client choose what's most comfortable for them. The more comfortable you are and the more relaxed you are, the more likely you are to engage in the process. Obviously, there's the rapport with the therapist is particularly important, the client relationship, the therapeutic relationship.
I think I might just fall asleep.
Oh, possibly. Some people fall asleep, but ultimately the part of your mind that's really listening to the suggestions that have been pre-agreed with the client, the things they want to change, not what you want, but what the client wants. The mind, the part of the mind that never switches off will be listening. And you just give some gentle, perhaps, suggestions about whatever the client has asked for. It could be to have more confidence, to be able to relax more, to let go of their anxiety, or I'm one for encouraging people to befriend their anxiety, whereas people sometimes want to think that their anxiety is the worst thing of all. I try and get them to befriend it because it is a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
But sometimes it goes a bit haywire, and we have to learn how to calm things down.
So when you say someone can be asleep and still suggestible, these tapes you can play when you're asleep, they do have some benefit there.
Well, there's some evidence saying that if you listen to sort of CDs and tapes at night that give suggestions, it can help. But I think there's nothing quite like actually having the therapeutic relationship and actually seeing a person one-to-one. Yes, some of these CDs are wonderful. You can, we were talking about Paul McKenna earlier, and some of the CDs that are available, which on one level are really, really good. But I think actually seeing somebody one-to-one, a good, qualified, registered, and insured therapist is, as long as you've got a really good therapeutic relationship and they know exactly what they're doing, then I think that's, it's really important. We were talking about apps as well, weren't we? So.
Oh, there's a fashion at the moment, isn't it, for using apps on your phone for mindfulness. It's a big thing at the moment, isn't it, mindfulness?
It is, and especially in schools, they're piloting the Mindfulness Schools project at the moment, piloting in, I think, just over 300 schools in the UK. And the benefits that are coming out, that the teachers are noticing that the concentration, the behaviour of the children has improved, and the children are much calmer. And I think they probably will eventually roll it out. I think it's been a very positive project.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, two examples I've seen of the Headspace app and the Calm app both seem to be doing quite well at the moment, don't they?
Yes, I mean, I often recommend the Headspace app. I've tried it myself. I think it's great. And also the Calm one, especially calm.com, for these sleep stories. I've recommended it to some of my clients who have difficulty getting off to sleep. And some of the stories, it just basically is either that they're very boring or they sort of help somebody get into a really good place that they can just drop off.
Some great voices on there.
Yeah.
Stephen Fry, for example.
Oh, yes, that's
chatting
right.
away.
Yes. Oh, yes, I heard about that one. There's some very good anecdotal evidence.
So we're going to learn some long words now. What other techniques do you use?
Apart from hypnotherapy, I use one called modern energy tapping. It's also known as emotional freedom technique. You might have heard of the word tapping. It's a combination of ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology that works physically to alter your brain or your energy system and your body all at once. So it basically consists of tapping on 15 different points. There are variations of it depending on where you've been taught, but the way I've been taught through the GOE, the modern energy tapping, concentrates on about 15 points, some of your head, then your collarbone and your fingers, and there are different points. And basically, you're working through a process, and it's Nick Ortner, for example, has a book on the tapping solution, and he talks, someone he interviewed called Dr. Dawson Church, and it sort of talks about the tapping on these particular acupoints, different pressure points on your body, or, on your head and your face and your hands, for example, signals directly to the stress centres of the midbrain. not mediated by the frontal lobes, which is like the thinking part, for example, which is quite active in talk therapy. So it can really help with all sorts of things.
That's something you can do yourself, tapping these.
Yes,
places.
absolutely. You could do it anywhere. I mean, probably I wouldn't recommend maybe doing it on the tube or something like that, because it might sort of draw attention to yourself. But you can even do it sort of in your imagination. You know, once you've got the hang of where the points are. Sometimes I recommend just particular points. For example, tapping on this area of your hand, like the karate chop area. Sometimes just saying a phrase, expressing how you're feeling, is something you want to perhaps either. You can use it for lifting your energy. It doesn't have to be about negative things. It can be to lift your energy if you are feeling a little bit tired, for example, or nervous, something like that.
Now, on your website, there's some other long words as well. I can just show on the screen there. Well, by the way, that's geraldinedaly.co.uk. EFT now and EMO. What's that all about?
Well, the EFT is really the modern energy tapping, the one where you tap on various meridian energy points in your body. And the EMO is from the GOE as well, the Guild of Energists. And it's basically talking about, it's a visualization technique when I explain it to clients. It's talking about the human body. We're energetic bodies, really. We're electricity and water. And we're just a lot of circuits. And you know, if you've ever even looked at, say, an acupuncture chart and you see all the different points, we are like a very complicated circuitry. So electricity, really, it's just everywhere in the human body. You know, our cells are specialised to conduct electrical currents. Electricity is required, for example, for the nervous system to send signals throughout the body to the brain, making it possible for us to move, think, and feel. So it's just everywhere. So what I do with this particular technique is I get somebody to visualize. I might ask you, for example, you know, what are you feeling at the moment? Where are you feeling it in your body? And it could be that you've had a thought. Say, for example, you've got an interview, or you've got something pressing coming up, or a presentation you've got to do. And you suddenly, the minute you think about it, the thought transfers into a signal, into somewhere in your body. Yeah. Perhaps you'll get tension across your forehead, perhaps a tummy ache, or your shoulders might start to get tight. And I'll say, well, where are you feeling it in your body? And we work visually. Some people find it hard to visualize if we just work with the feeling then. But sometimes people even will paint me a picture in words, and we'll work using that image to help, if you like, just soften it and let it go. So that's the idea, is that you just let it go. It's a really lovely technique. You don't have to talk to anybody about what the problem is. I mean, it's helpful to know, but you can actually do it yourself just by visualizing. It's a really nice technique.
And that could work for children, for example, with exam stress or that sort of thing?
Yes, I mean, I've used this technique and the tapping technique when I was teaching full-time. I would teach students and teachers alike, actually, where I used to work. And I would often be found, if I'd had a, say, particularly stressful lesson, perhaps with a class where there were some challenges going on, I might be found in the Spanish cupboard doing my tapping and breathing and until I calm myself.
Some children that find it hard to do the right thing?
Well, you know, there's always a reason, isn't there? You know, there's always a reason behind it. Nobody acts in a certain way unless there's a reason. So sometimes it's helpful to find out what the reason is.
Yeah. On your Facebook page, you've got some regular posts, I see, of useful tips and things.
Oh, yes.
The most recent one there is 5 tips for anxiety relief. So that's a useful site. Got facebook.com/learn how to de-stress.
Yes, I mean, I've put lots of tips up. I generally do them every few days. I add in different techniques I share. Particularly mindful.org is one of my favourites at the moment. They have fantastic access to various free resources. Frantic World is an excellent one as well, which is associated with the mindfulness of Professor Mark Williams that's set up in the Oxford University, the Oxford Mindfulness Centre at Oxford University.
And he has an interesting quote, because this phrase mindfulness is thrown around, isn't it? But nobody really knows what it means. but he explains it more for us, I think.
Well, he does. I mean, he said, he talks about, for example, that mindfulness means knowing directly what's going on inside and outside ourselves, moment by moment. And it's easy, very easy to stop noticing the world around us. How many of us, for example, have walked up the road and perhaps looked at the pavement and not even looked up and admired the beautiful surroundings, or even heard the birds, in the trees and things like that. So it's about not losing touch with the way our bodies are feeling. It's about getting in touch with how our bodies are feeling, and otherwise we often end up living in our heads, don't we, really, somewhat, caught up in our thoughts. I mean, it's very easy. Your thoughts are a bit like a train. You can either get on the train and follow it through, or you can perhaps get off at the next station and just watch your thoughts going by. We're not going to stop our thoughts, are we?
No.
Because it's just a natural process. But sometimes we need to get off the train, if you like, and just observe and breathe. The most important thing is breathing.
Yes, that is a very powerful technique, isn't it, actually?
That's one of the first things that I teach clients that come to see me, and the courses that I run, the wellness courses. I teach people how to breathe, and often people think, well, I know how to breathe. But it's one of the most significant things. It's scientifically proven. It actually switches you into what they call the parasympathetic nervous system, where you calm down. Where you are nervous, or say if you're having an anxiety attack, you will be in what they call fight or flight. So you're in your sympathetic nervous system has activated your red alert button, and the basic idea is your breathing will change, your heartbeat will go up, you might start sweating, all the things associated with being anxious, perhaps feeling nauseous, all those kind of symptoms. But the minute you start doing one thing, calming your breathing, your body will think, oh, okay, I think things have calmed down, and things will start to calm down.
So it's slowing breathing and maybe
Yes.
deeper breaths.
And, well, mindfulness focuses on the breath, because the breath is everything. Without the breath, we're nothing really without the breath, are we? So sometimes it's as simple as sitting down for a moment, having 3 easy breaths. It could be as simple as that. There are lots of guided meditations, for example, on franticworld.com. Excellent. And I highly recommend Professor Mark Williams' book on mindfulness, one of the very first books I read. I've done the mindfulness stress reduction course myself, and I've taught many clients as well the basics of mindfulness. But there's nothing like going on an actual course, if you have the time to do it. The 8-week course. Make sure it's an accredited course, though.
And that's something to add, isn't it? If you're thinking of going to see a practitioner, are there societies or associations that they should be members of? We should look for.
Yes. It's very, very important. So you wouldn't go and see a doctor that hadn't qualified.
No.
So I'm not putting us in the same category, but there are certain standards. For example, I'm an accredited member of the National Council of Hypnotherapists, which means I've reached a certain level. I've had supervision. I've been approved, and I'm fully insured. For example, I'm also a member of the Complementary and National Healthcare Council, which often GPs refer to when they are referring for complementary therapies. I've got an enhanced even DBS, so I still do some teaching. So I work with children, so I'm clear to work with children. I'm a member of the GOE, which is the Guild of Energists, which is my energy work that I do. And I'm also insured with the CTHA, which is the Complementary Therapist Association. It's very important that you check. For example, I even provide the links for people to check on my website, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend that you check somebody out, that they're qualified and insured. Those are really important. And perhaps if they're still under supervision, even though I'm accredited and qualified, I still intend to carry on with my supervision, because I think self-reflection, and also you're learning all the time. I do lots of CPD every year to keep my insurance up and to keep my membership of the bodies and keep my knowledge also current, which is really, really important.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Hopefully you can come back anytime and show us more of what you do and focus in on one of those methods of teaching. So more information, once again, there's the website geraldinedaly.co.uk with the useful links there. There's the Facebook page, Geraldine Daly Learn How to De-Stress. Lots of tips on there. You mentioned this mindfulness, franticworld.com,
Yes.
and also this professor's book, Finding Peace in a Frantic World.
Yes, and Dr. Danny Penman, who also co-wrote the book Mindfulness, has written, I think it's called The Art of Breathing, but it's in the same sequence. You'll find it on the same link, Frantic World, because I know they work together. There's also Mindfulness for Pain Relief as well, which is very, it's very current at the moment.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thanks for coming in to Uxbridge FM. That's fantastic, Geraldine.
Thank
I've
you.
learned so much, some big words today.
Okay, thank you for having me on your show.
And see you soon.
Thank you.